Hi, good afternoon, everyone. This is Dr. Watson. Thank you again for joining me. Today's a very exciting day. We're going to be going over how to construct a argumentative essay. We have one due for this course in a few weeks here, and I am excited to get started with introducing a few main and key topics or key points of writing an argumentative essay. This essay will build off of our discussion from last week, which was simply how to approach an essay assignment in general. Um, as you remember, the first step would be to understand the assignment, understand where you're coming from, understand exactly what's being asked of you in the assignment. The next will be to develop that clear thesis statement, which we went over last class. The next is going to be our introduction paragraph, our body paragraphs, um, and lastly, the conclusion paragraph. So all of this information should be fresh on your brain. We just recently went over this, which is why I decided to start this week with the argumentative essay, so we can put those skills that we've learned to use. Let's see. So the first thing we need to do is discuss exactly what an argumentative essay is and how I can guide you into proposing and defending your ideas in an argumentative essay. So pretty simple here. An argumentative essay is a piece of writing that uses factual evidence and support to convince the reader of a certain way of thinking. That's the technical term. Let's think of it in this way. Raise your hand if you've ever had an argument. I definitely have. I'm sure others have as well. Maybe not many, but we definitely have attempted to get our point across or convey or persuade another person to think how we think or think what we're thinking. That is an argumentative essay. That's the great thing about an argumentative essay. If you've ever had an argument, you're 90% there. All you have to do is put the formatting into the essay, which is what we spoke on last week, but I'll go over it a little bit more now. There are four key components to the argumentative essay. The first is having a strong stance on the topic. I'll go into this a little bit more in the next slide, but you want to be passionate about what you're talking about. What I've learned in my studies and my academic career, and as well as my professional careers, when I am excited about the information, when I know a lot of information about what I'm talking about, it kind of falls out. It kind of falls onto the page, and it's up to me to organize it in a way that can be digestible for a reader. That's the great thing about this assignment. I'm allowing you to choose your topic. I would suggest you choose something that you are passionate about, something that you have maybe argued before or have very strong beliefs and ideas on. And choosing a stance on that topic or strong stance on that topic is paramount to how your paper will read to the reader. Next, a strong thesis statement, which is just a clear statement to your reader of exactly what your stance is, where you're coming from, what your argument is, and how you plan to relay that information to the reader as they continue to read your essay. A big key part of an argumentative essay is the argument, right? And an argument has one side and it has another side. So you want to start getting those gears grinding and moving towards what would be an argument back. If you are having this argument with someone, what would be something that they could say back to you to refute what you're saying? Once you kind of have that in your mind, you'll want to answer that question as if they're asking it to you in the paper. I know that seems a little bit more complicated and out of the box, but I'll go into further detail about it. But the counter argument and refuting that counter argument is paramount in an argumentative essay. You'll want to have strong evidence-filled body paragraphs and a strong summarizing conclusion. You'll want to have these two components because just as in any argument, if you are arguing a point, you don't just want to say, I feel this way, or this thing is this. There's no evidence there. So essentially, it's an opinion, which we all have, and opinions are valid and they are important. However, in this type of format, you need to give reasons as to why the way that you feel about the topic or the way that you think about the topic is correct and the way that others who may refute your topic are incorrect. I know that's a lot of information. Take a deep breath. It's quite fun, honestly, a argumentative essay. And I say that because, in an argument, especially in a heated argument, in an argument that is full of emotion, you don't have time to fact check or to research or to formulate and organize your thoughts. They're kind of just falling out of your mouth because you're speaking. The great thing about writing is that you have time to put it together. So you have your argument on one hand and you have your evidence on the other. You put those two together, add a little persuasive language, and you are in there. So we will start with step one. Step one is going to be pretty simple. Choose a topic, define your position. Like I said before, choose a topic that you're passionate about. For instance, I'll use myself as an example. I am an avid Marvel fan. I love the movies, I love the comics, I love the TV shows, I love the dolls, I love everything. So let's just say my argument is Marvel is the Marvel Cinematic Universe is the best cinematic universe in history. It's the best, period. That goes on to my second topic. Choose a debatable topic. Something that can be tossed back and forth between yourself and another person. An opinion that you can do extensive research on. Research that you can find in books, academic journals, things of that nature. Ways that you'd be able to support your argument and persuade another to come over to your side, essentially. You'll want to state clearly in your paper what your stance is, which is essentially your thesis statement, which is where you're coming from. For instance, in our example, my thesis statement would be the Marvel Cinematic Universe is the best cinematic universe in the history of the world. Done. And then lastly, you'll want to consider those differing and opposing viewpoints so you can make counterpoints. Pretty simple, pretty easy, nothing crazy. Step two, simple. Do the thesis statement. So at this point, you'll want to organize your thoughts, organize your stance on where you are in your topic, and you'll want to state that clearly in your thesis statement. The statement should foreshadow what you're about to argue about, what your paper and your body paragraphs and your conclusion, your evidence is about, what you're going to be saying, what stance you're on. It should outline your main argument, of course, and as we went over last week, it should be at the end of your introduction paragraph, the very end. It should be one sentence clearly stating exactly what you think and what your paper is all about. Right? Step three, conduct your research. You'll want to find evidential support for the stance of your topic. This evidence can be factual, logical, statistical, or anecdotal. I like all of those topics or all those types of evidence. An interesting one is anecdotal. Telling a story about how I felt the first time that I watched Iron Man, or how I felt the first time that I saw Avengers Endgame. That plays on emotions. That plays on persuasion. Someone can really get to understand how I feel and why I feel what I feel because I've told a story about it. If you're uncomfortable with doing so, that's more than fine. Factual, logical, or statistical evidence is 100% accepted. You just want to make sure that you're using credible sources. This is a big taboo. This is something that a lot of students get held up on. The internet is not your friend. Anyone can write anything on the internet. You want to make sure that you're using academic journals, peer-reviewed documents, books, things of that nature that are credible, that are accessible, that can be looked up and fact-checked or reviewed if need be. That evidence has to be from a credible source. If not, the validity of your paper, your own credibility falls into the wayland if you do not. So conducting your research is a important step. Probably one of the most important steps in the argument in an argumentative paper. Just because you're giving an argument, you want to be sure that your argument has legs, it has back up. I can't just say I think Marvel is the best. That's an opinion. That doesn't give your reader any type of information other than your opinion. Now, if I brought up the box office numbers, if I brought up the movie stars that have been made, if I brought up the TV shows, the expansion, there's so many different facts and evidence that can be added to that argument that would make it make more sense and fill it out for someone who does not think like that. All right. And step 4, you're going to compose the body paragraphs and summarize in your conclusion. For me, I would say at least 3 body paragraphs. Each body paragraph is going to cover a different piece of the evidence that supports your thesis. So, the more paragraphs that you have, the more evidence that you have, the more credible that you seem, and the better chances of persuading that reader from one way to the other. So as long as you cite your sources, I am fine with whatever you'd like to submit, but at least must be 3 paragraphs. 3 paragraphs, excuse me. As I stated before, each paragraph will cover a different piece of evidence, and each paragraph will need to begin with a topic sentence about that evidence. A topic sentence explains what the paragraph is in reference to. So the topic sentence, which is first, supports what the paragraph is going to be about, and the paragraph itself will support your thesis in the overall essay. Again, cite your sources, and you'll want to address and disprove opposing viewpoints in a clear and concise manner in your body paragraphs. So let's just use my example for instance. Marvel Cinematic Universe is the best movie universe ever created. But what if the person that's reading my paper is a Star Wars fan, which I love Star Wars, by the way, too, or a Lord of the Rings fan, or a Underworld fan, or any universe that can be brought up? They don't believe that. So take those arguments, formulate them in your mind, and rebut them already. Already have although Star Wars is known for this and that, I believe that the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and have evidence to support what that belief is, and keep going from there. It's important to think about the other side of your paper. Sometimes we get held up about how we feel and what we think, and presenting that information in the correct way. We need to be sure that we're thinking about what someone else could be thinking. Not everyone thinks the same way that we do. We'll go to the conclusion. Conclusion is simple. You'll want to summarize your argument. You'll want to restate your thesis in a different way if possible. I wouldn't use the same wording. I would say Marvel Universe is the most profound, or the most well-known, or something of that nature that would restate that thesis, but doesn't get away from it. It's the same point that you're making. And that'll be all for now. Our upcoming objectives, what we'll talk about next week is the type of argument that you're going to be doing. It's either going to be classical, Rogerian, or Tuman, and I will go over exactly what each of those types of arguments are, how they can be implied into your paper. Classical is more than fine. Any of these options are more than fine if you feel comfortable tackling any of the more complex types of arguments. You're welcome to do so, but next week I will go over that topic, and then I will give out the dates that will be due for the rough draft of your argumentative essay as well as your final draft. Thank you so much, guys. Have a wonderful day, and please call, email, text me if you have any questions. All right? Thanks.